Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And I'm Russell.
And I'm Russell. So this is Ask Rob and Russell?
Yes, it is. This is a very special episode of Ask Rob and Rob because it's Ask Rob and Russell with Russell Smith from Property Hub Tax, joining us to answer all the tax questions that, to be quite honest, we've been putting off answering for the best part of a year because we haven't known the answers. Now, finally, we've got a man with us who does have the answer. So we've got two tax-flavoured questions to answer in a minute. But first, if you've got a question of your own, tax-related or otherwise, then it's very easy to send it our way.
It certainly is. You can call 013 808 00035. That's 013 808 00035. Or go to thepropertyhub.net/ask. You can ask us anything about property, now including tax. As Rob said, we can finally answer them. So if you want to ask us about property or tax, or property tax, then please go ahead. That's exactly what our first caller's done, and as they've not left a name, we'll call them Zebedee.
Hi Rob and Rob, thank you for making fantastic content. I was hoping to ask another question. You read out my last one and I got some really useful answers, so thank you. The second question for you would actually be around the tax changes to buy-to-let that have been phased in over the next few years. I believe it's on the run-up to 2020. I think it's been phased, over 4 years as 25 to 50 to 75 to 100. And, the impact that those could have and maybe the conversations that need to be had with accountants. My mortgage advisor first made me aware of it as I'm looking to kind of first start establishing my portfolio. So I was hoping that you could go into this and just explain what the likely impacts are going to be. Thanks. Appreciate it. 5-star reviews all round.
Okay, this is a great question. So really the question on everyone's lips is, what are the tax changes to buy-to-lets in the run-up to 2020? Now, there's a reason why the UK has the biggest tax legislation, and that's because it's complicated, okay? So I'm going to try my best to answer this question in a very, very simple way. Essentially, up until now, you have been able to deduct mortgage interest costs from your income. Okay, so if you've got an interest-only mortgage, the whole cost goes down. If it's a repayment mortgage, the interest element goes down as a cost. And that means essentially your profit has been lowered from your property income, so you've paid less tax. Now, here's the big change. Mortgage interest is now no longer tax deductible if you're a higher rate payer. Okay, now if you're a higher rate payer, that means you're earning income of over 45,000. So this is the majority of people owning property, because if you think about it, someone who's owning property has the income from either employed income or a self-employed business, so potentially is already at that £45,000 income level. The property income sits on top of that, which means that the property income is going to be affected by this mortgage interest change. So the first thing to ask yourself is, am I a higher rate taxpayer? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what is this actually going to mean for me? Well, essentially what it's going to mean is this. Your profit on your tax return is going to be higher this year. That's because you are not allowed to put down the mortgage interest element onto that tax return. If your profit is higher, that means your tax is higher. So there I've said it, your tax is higher. And here's the worst part of it. Of course, the cash that you're actually receiving from your tenants and the cash that's going out to your other expenses is exactly the same. However, your tax is going to go up. So that's the first thing to remember. If you're a higher rate payer, you're going to lose the ability to claim mortgage interest from your tax return. Another thing about it is it's not all happening now. It is being phased in, as our caller has suggested. At the moment, it's 25% coming in, then it's 50, then it's 75, then it's 100 from 2020. So from 2020, the whole change is happening, but it's been gradually changed in. So at the moment, in terms of this tax year that we're in now, 75% of the mortgage interest still can be claimed. Only 25% will be snipped off. And then 50% next, 75%, and then 100. So that's the main answer here. That's the big change. It's mortgage interest not being tax deductible. Now you may say to me, oh my goodness, I'm a higher rate payer. This is going to really affect me. Absolutely. You need to kind of check that out. You may say to me, oh, actually, I'm fine. I'm a basic rate taxpayer, which means I earn less than 45,000. So I should be completely in the clear, no problem at all. Well, you want to check this because if at the moment you're a basic rate payer, you've got to look at your numbers by taking out your mortgage interest. So if you take out your mortgage interest, your income is going to go up. So there are plenty of people out there at the moment who've got income of about 43,000, so they're just below the higher rate. But when you take out the mortgage interest cost, their income actually goes to 50,000 and suddenly they are higher rate payers. So number one, ask yourself if you're a higher rate payer. If you're a basic rate payer, just double check that by adjusting that mortgage interest, you don't get swallowed up into the higher rate and therefore you are affected by this mortgage interest changes.
All right, that's brilliant. Thank you, Russell. Now let's move on to our next question. This one comes in from someone else who hasn't given their name, so I'm going to call him Brian. Let's listen to Brian's question.
Hi, Rob and Rob. First of all, really thank you for the great podcast. Really enjoying it. Just got a question about how to structure the next buy-to-let property. I've got a bit of a deposit and I'm kind of in two minds whether to set up a limited company or do it as an individual. I know you had a lot of input about that. I just can't work it out myself. What's the best way to go? I'm only looking at two properties, one in London and one in Manchester, and I'm just not sure what's the best way. I'm on basic tax rate at the moment, but going forward with the rental income, I would just get into the higher tax rate. So how would you structure it? Is one or two properties? Would you say up as a limited company, or should I just keep as an individual? Thank you, guys. And again, really, really thank you for all your input.
Okay, this is a great question about the structure of where I should hold my property. So essentially, you've got two options here. One of those properties could be in your own name, or you could put it in a limited company. Now, if you are a higher rate taxpayer, that's above £45,000 income, you will be affected by the mortgage interest changes, and that is likely to cost you a lot more tax. So my very, very simple answer to anyone who's a higher rate taxpayer is the limited company really is the better way to go, mainly because the limited company properties, so properties you put in limited company, are unaffected by these mortgage interest changes. Simplified, you'll pay less tax in a limited company, generally speaking. So if you are a higher rate payer, then I would say limited company. Now, in this case, you're saying you're actually a basic tax rate payer at the moment. Well, I would double check that. So if you take out your mortgage interest cost, make sure that you don't get swallowed up into the higher rate, because if you do, then you would be affected. But let's supposing you're not and you're a basic rate payer. Well, it is that the first thing there, it means that you're not going to be affected by the mortgage interest changes. So in this particular circumstance, it may be preferable to buy that property in your own name, because you're not going to be affected by the changes, and it might be slightly easier for you to kind of do that. But just keep an eye on that higher rate number of 45,000, and if your property that you're going to get now brings you in this rental income, make sure you put that on, and make sure you don't go above the 45,000. So very simply, if you're anywhere near the higher rate taxpayer, you really need to look at putting it into a limited company or purchasing it in a limited company. If you're not, then you can get away with still purchasing property as an individual, but just keep an eye on the numbers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zebedee. Thank you, Brian. Two fantastic questions there. Not quite sure they were your names, but they sound quite nice. What also sounds quite nice is detailed answers. So thank you, Russell. You've shown us up here. Rob, we need to do better in the future. But we'll get Russell from Property Hub Tax back next week because we've got so many questions in. So make sure you join us next Tuesday for that.
Yep, and in the meantime, we will see you for the Property Podcast on Thursday. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.